people today get a lot of deviated or distracted by a n number of things. What I've faced or recently experienced like with people is they want everything to be done in a very short way. Like they want everything very very quick. Okay, like for example, one of the most frequently asked questions for me is like, if I do 300 problems on lead code, is that good enough for coming into Uber?
Hi guys, so welcome to the episode 1. Today we have on podcast Mr. Vivek Bansal, who actually works as a senior software engineer at Uber. He is also a fellow content creator. He has been in the trenches like all of us, so he knows a thing or two about the software industry as well. Apart from this, he is what people say an early investor. So let's try to pick his brain and gather what we can. Hey Vivek,
Hello,
how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing good as well. So let's start. So what are you doing currently?
So right now I'm basically a software engineer. I'm working at Uber. My current tenure in Uber has recently crossed 3 years.
Nice.
Okay, and yeah, I'm just doing my day-to-day job at Uber, like coding, designing, and yeah, just whenever I get like free time, I basically do some personal stuff in that time. Yeah,
Nice.
that's it.
So let's start with the basics, right? What did you always dream to be a software engineer?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I did not dream that way, but if you say my brother is actually a software engineer, that's where I got the idea that I should apply for software engineering. But it was that I had a good amount of interest in mechanical as well, and that's where I thought that okay, if I go for mechanical engineering, then I might be okay with my life, and I might turn out to be a good engineer. Yeah, so yeah, I did not have that much interest in software engineering.
So I know for a fact that you actually have a degree in mechanical engineering, right?
Yes.
What is the reason for switching from mechanical to software?
So I would say there is no reason as such. Like when the first year ended, it was like at a certain point of time you kind of develop some hobbies where you kind of find your most of interest in, and that's where you kind of realize that okay, your interests are taking over what you're actually doing in your normal life. So that's where I realized that okay, I was doing coding on the sidelines, and that's where I realized that okay, coding is something which I can pursue as a career. I did not decide it like consciously that okay, I would very much do it, but yeah, I took it as a challenge that okay, let's do it and let's see where it gets me, and yeah, all those things.
So what piqued your interest in coding? So let's start from there. Did you do any programming in school or something?
Actually yes. So like I had C++ as a course in 11th and 12th.
Okay.
So that's where my interest towards coding built, and I would say that what interest or what piqued my interest in coding was I actually liked computers in general. Before actually doing all of the coding, I was good at games, or I liked spending time with my computer. So that's when like I got to a habit of that okay, I have to spend some time in computer, and that's where like I got to an environment where all the people were doing some coding and figuring out logic, and I started to see that okay, let's see what it is, and let's decide later if it has got my interest or not, and if I can pursue it or not. But yeah, that's where I started my journey.
So how was the journey? So being in mechanical engineer, I hope you would have to take mechanical classes as well, right?
Yes.
So you had to manage from between mechanical and at the same time make sure that you are doing good in computer science. So this is a two-part question. First part is how did you manage both of them? And second is how, like a lot of people have question right now is how do you gain those opportunities? So it's very hard being a computer science engineer to gain those opportunities, let alone being a mechanical engineer and trying to secure those internships, placements. How did you manage that?
Okay, so your first question is around like how did I manage between mechanical and computer science. So the main thing is I would say in normal engineering colleges, the thing is that people do study engineering at very last of the exam. Like for example, if I have to go for engineering and if I take any engineering course, then most of the people basically take the course, study it at like 1 or 2 weeks post, like before the exam, and then they sort of clear the exams. So that was my case for, you know, when I developed my interest after my first year and all the common subjects were finished, I sort of got an interest in coding, and that's where I decided that okay, for mechanical I would be doing a little bit of study here and there, and maybe I will just go for the exam 1 or 2 weeks before the exam itself, and I will prepare and appear for the exam. But apart from that, whatever time I will get before my mid semester or before my end semester, I would make sure that I do spend my time in coding, learning things, going to depth to see that if I can develop an interest in that. And you can say there was a part in which you can say that when you're at college, when you're at most of the time at hostel, you get this feeling, okay, when you're at hostel, what would you do? You cannot have all the machines at your home and you cannot build out your interest out of it, but you have your computer with you all the time 24/7, and that's where you can sort of go ahead and explore things on the internet. Just go out and see that, okay, what people are developing, doing, you know, all those things. So that's where I manage my time.
How do you carve out opportunities for yourselves, or what metrics or what turns did your life take to ensure that from being a mechanical engineer and then coming to Uber, there would have been a lot of stops or pitfalls, right? So I want to understand, let's take it from a college point of view. What are those things, or what are those steps that you took to make sure that you are getting best out of the college?
So I would say, as of today, people in college, I've interacted with a good number of people in my network as well, which are in college right now. And people today get a lot of deviated or distracted by a n number of things. Okay. So I would say some of the distractions are AI, ML, artificial intelligence and machine learning. What about ChatGPT? What about system designing? What about maybe some other X thing which is going on in the world? Okay, these are all the distractions which people take it as upon themselves, and they kind of deviate themselves from having a base foundation, which may be a good foundation for them to have a good career going forward. Okay, so as yeah.
Sorry, can you please explain what do you mean by these deviations? So what I understand, AI and machine learning are very good things, right, which are happening in the industry right now. For example, I can imagine ChatGPT any one of us would use, but can you explain what do you mean by these deviations?
So what do I mean by deviations or distractions is, it's good to know about artificial intelligence and machine learning, but do I recommend them to start and learning about artificial intelligence? It might not be the case for 99% of the people.
Okay.
So I would say that when you enter into computer engineering as a course, you first learn about languages, okay, C++, Python, okay, how to basically write and communicate with the computer itself, okay. Then you think about, okay, how would I, probably learn a model or something, but that is again like very, very far-fetched. So first you learn about languages, that how you can sort of communicate with the computer, then understand things about at lower level, like for example, what is OS, okay, what are the DBMS related concepts, okay, what is networking, what happens when you maybe open your browser, enter google.com, okay. All those concepts are basically a baseline foundation which will eventually get you a good concept of how the world works. And then I would recommend anyone to go and pursue artificial intelligence or machine learning, because that is one niche which one should focus on, but do not get distracted by it just because it is a hot topic right now in the atmosphere. Okay,
makes sense.
Yeah, first think on basics and then build on top of it. If you start with AI ML, in the future you will face problem, how do I write code? And that is a foundational mistake that you have done in your college, and you cannot recover from that. You will spend a good amount of time where you could have done that in the college.
Makes sense. So let's take one more basic question here. With the boom of the software industry, right, like the way the software industry has progressed in India or around the world in, let's say, a decade or two, what do you think is the single most criteria or the single most basic criteria when one should say that they should pursue software engineering?
I would say if you were to get to it, then you would say probably having problem solving skills.
Okay.
I would just give a little bit more context to it. Like, if there is any problem in your house and you're good at figuring out solutions, then yes, software engineering is for you, because you are piqued by the interest of, okay, what is the problem? How do I figure out the solution? And how should I execute the solution? Yes, then that's software engineering for you, and you should pursue that.
Nice. And people who are sort of scared of coding. I know a lot of people who, for them, coding has been this stigma, right? How do I code? So, does coding is that big of a challenge for you? Like, for example, you have been from mechanical, right? So, for you to understand all of these concepts in software industry, for you to actually understand what's going on, did you ever feel in your life that coding is something that you are stuck at?
All right. So I would say like coding has to be done at the time of college itself, and take your time to absorb and process things. Like, it's a language altogether.
Okay.
So I mean, I would say that if I were to learn a new language altogether for speaking itself, then it would be maybe hard enough for me, because there is no logic as such. I would have to learn keywords, and I would have to just communicate and build sentences out of it.
Okay.
But for coding and for a language to learn, you should spend good amount of time in your college itself to learn what are the nuances in the language, how do you write sort of logic on top of that nuances, and then spend a good amount of time in it. Okay, do not be discouraged by, let's say, maybe spending 1 week or 2 week itself. Okay, just have a good sort of positive vibe around yourself. Maybe couple up yourself with other people who are kind of facing the same challenge or at same position where you are.
Okay.
And that would give you a constant motivation that, okay, if you're not able to get something, then your partner might help or something like that. Okay, so do these kind of things, but stick to the process and make sure that you learn things in a well-timed manner. Okay, do not hurry things.
So one more question that I have faced from a lot of college students is, what languages should I learn? Like, there are C, C++, or Java or Python. I don't know, there are Ruby on Rails. There are multiple languages, right? What do you think basically as software engineer about the number of languages that people get stuck in?
So I would say, see, as of today, there are some languages which are very much platform independent. What do I mean by that is, like, you can write the code in that particular language and you can convert it into any language from that language. Okay. But for any person who is in software engineering domain in college itself as a course, they should get started with any of the languages. Okay, like for example, if I'm learning Java and I know my OOPS concepts in Java, then they are not going to get changed if I switch to another object-oriented programming language. Okay, so the idea is, first understand what are the nuances in a language, what data structures are there, how do you build logic on top of that, what are different kind of, let's say, any OOPS related concepts, all those things. And then once you have completely done that, you have understood what concurrency is, all those things, then you basically switch to other language or think about that, okay, hey, what is the difference between Java and Go, and why do I switch from Java to Go? Okay, then basically think about other language, but otherwise keep your one language very strong, very proficient, and just stick to it.
Makes sense. So let's move on to how it has been for you since you left college and you joined Uber. So you say you have around 6 years of experience, right? So how have those 6 years been?
Okay, so I would say it has been quite good. It has been quite challenging. So, like for example, I have been part of like 3 companies so far.
Okay, can you give some sort of a rough timeline?
Yeah, sure. So I joined in 2017 July a company called Media.net, which is into advertising.
Okay.
And I left the company in Jan 2019. The period overall in Media.net was more of, something you can say a internship plus a full-time developer, where you kind of have understood the ecosystem and then you're building things on top of it. Okay, so it was a very raw, you can say, experience for me. I got to know a little bit, because I'm from mechanical engineering and I have not studied the courses as such in my curriculum, so it was a very raw experience for me. I learned a lot of things from there. But yeah, from Jan 2019 I actually switched to another company called Grab. Okay, and then I stayed there for like around 1 year, 6 months, 7 months, And then in that period of my Grab, I basically faced a lot of challenge because the team in which I was of Grab, it was a very small team, and I used to face a quite number of challenges understanding some things. Okay. And I was actually building things independently, and I was actually starting engineer of that team. Okay. So me and my manager were the first people who were kind of building that team, so it was a very challenging environment for me. There was no seniors as such. I had to reach out to different people of the different teams to understand, hey, how can this be done, or maybe I have to catch up some time with my manager itself and gain from his experience, and then understand, okay, how can things be done. So it was challenging in an equal way. And then I basically switched to Uber in I think September 2020, and then I have been Uber for like 3 years. So in Uber, it has been a great time so far. Like, I would say I have been better engineer overall. I have got my first career promotion. And in overall, I would say that Uber has been a great experience in terms of other companies, because it has ticked all of the things which makes me very much satisfied. It challenges me, it supports me as an engineer. There are various people who are around me who can sort of guide me and tell me how to do things in a certain way, and what mistakes you might be doing in that. Okay. So overall, it's a very good and healthy environment I have faced at Uber.
So what are the things that made you stay? I think it's almost 3 years now you're at Uber.
Yes.
And you got your first promotion in Uber, right? So you got promoted from software engineer to senior software engineer, right?
Yes.
Congrats for that.
Yeah, thank you.
So what made you stay at Uber?
So I would say, actually, for software engineers, there is a lot of things that matters to them, but for other people it might not matter or something. Okay. For example, I would say for Uber, I stayed at Uber because number one, it's overall a good company. Okay. It challenges you in the right way. Whatever I got challenges at Media.net, Grab, in some or the other way, I was able to get those challenges at Uber. Okay. If not actually more. Okay. Then the second thing is, I actually have this concept that, okay, wherever you stay at, your professional goals or your professional time should also support your personal goals. Okay. So in that sense, I got a good compensation, which I feel every year is sort of a good, remuneration which I get for my time for spending as a software engineer in the industry. If I basically compare it with other people at the same level in the different companies, then I do get a very satisfaction that, okay, I'm staying at a good company and it is paying me very well. Apart from that, I get sort of a good atmosphere as well.
Nice. So let's talk about, I think one of the biggest hurdles is getting promoted. So how do you define your promotion journey? Like, what responsibilities were there as an SDE2, and which got you promoted to SSE or a senior software engineer, and how has that path been?
Okay. So I would say, like, being a SDE2 at any company involves your responsibility of implementing and designing things end to end. So if I'm at Uber as a SDE2 and I've been given any feature to implement, then I should be able to code the feature end to end completely, collaborate with the multiple stakeholders involved in this project, and communicate to them the respective deadlines or anything which is sort of ambiguous in the project, very proactively, and get the decisions from them, or have meetings frequently. Apart from that, you should be able to give out proposals of your designs, or you should be able to overall do all of the things as a software engineer: code, design, collaborate, all those things as a SDE2.
Okay.
But from a senior software engineer perspective, like, the path in terms of how and where it changes is basically, overall, you should get an idea of like what your team is doing overall. Okay. You basically get to know a product idea or business idea that, okay, how do you put your foot out of your only software engineering zone and think about the business as well. Okay. Get an idea about the product. Okay. Apart from that, think about how you can help and collaborate or coach other members in the team who are sort of coming up. Let's say if there is an intern, you can be a sort of buddy to your intern and help them understand that okay, how does your team work. You can assign them a project. This all can be discussed or done by having a quick interaction with your manager that okay, I want to grow as a software engineer.
Okay, so let's talk about managers now. What is your perspective? For example, I've always believed to be successful, you need to be surrounded by good people. And in this software engineering setup, the manager actually yields so much influence over your growth, your day-to-day job. So what do you perceive about a good manager, or can you give some light on how the managers have been in your journey and how they have made sure that you become what you are today?
Okay, that's a good question. I would say I'm still figuring out how do managers work, because I'm not a manager, but I do still observe around the people and see how do managers actually function. But what I've realized is managers' responsibilities are in a way to give their team members a platform where they can collaborate independently of the manager.
Okay.
Let's say if there is a staff engineer in the team and there is a SD2 in the team, the manager has to make sure that there is a platform or there is a scrum or there is a weekly meeting or anything so that people are collaborative enough, and the SD3s or the SD2s, maybe they can proactively ask questions in that platform or in that channel, and they get heard. They do not get diminished, or people can actually freely talk. So that is, I think, one of the key responsibilities of the manager, which I have felt have actually helped me grow in this career. And yeah, I think apart from that, it is very important from your standpoint as well to keep on asking feedback from the manager. Okay, so manager has a lot of things to do, but you will be as good as when you are asking too many questions to your manager, that where you are not performing good or where you are supposed to be and you're not there and you have kind of deviated. Like for example, one of the things which I feel software engineers miss is doing time estimation. Okay, so what managers actually look for is having a good time estimation for your projects, but the people do miss on these things, and I have improved on it by asking proactively to my manager that okay, how should I estimate a good timeline for my project. So
Okay.
that's where my manager has helped me grow in my career. Yeah.
So let's talk about some extracurricular activities of yours. So I see you are very active on LinkedIn, right? Have you ever been this way, like since college, or is it something that you recently acquired?
Yes, I would say I have recently acquired this. I did not thought about that okay, I would be writing so much on LinkedIn, or I would be studying things and then I would be sharing with the other people.
Sorry,
Yeah.
let's start with this. What do you want to tell the audience about what essentially LinkedIn is? How do you use it? What is your contribution on the platform?
So yeah, as everyone know, LinkedIn is a job platform where you can come and maybe search for your jobs, share your ideas with other people. So how do I use it? Yes, I use it for the job search, although I haven't been doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, just for any Uber recruiters watching it. But yeah, so I've been using LinkedIn for sharing content which I feel people should be more interested, or they would have an interest if they were to read about software engineering as a whole. Okay, so I've been using that platform actively for that. Apart from that, one of the other things which I normally use LinkedIn for is to network with other people. Like
Okay.
for example, if there are managers in the other companies, it's not like I have to go and ask my manager only questions about, hey, how do I solve this problem, or the time estimation that we talked about. I can certainly go to any other company's managers. It might be the case that out of 10 people you ping on LinkedIn, 2 of them might reply. But you can see it as a platform where you kind of network with people, share your thoughts and ideas with other people, and grow in terms of these soft skills, because they haven't been told us so far to actually do.
And how did writing on LinkedIn change you as a person?
Okay, so I would say it has changed me a very much, so it has been 3 months, 3 odd months. See, for reading, it's good enough that okay, you read someone's work and understand things. That is good, okay. But if you see the other side of the screen, that someone whose book you are reading has actually wrote that book and has communicated to you in such a clear way that you are able to get that book, understand their thoughts and appreciate their book. So writing is more about communicating your thoughts using some words or sentences and clearing your own thoughts so that other people get the most benefit out of it, but
Okay.
you will actually being end up the most benefited person out of this whole process. So writing has helped me clear my thoughts, clear my understanding, clear my ability to ask the right questions. If being in a problem, what is the problem actually, what is the solution actually, how to navigate it, how to execute it, all those kind of things I've learned immensely from it.
So basically, I think one of the reasons people are shy of writing is no one has any new ideas. So you understand reinventing the wheel concept, right? Let's say we are doing this podcast. We are not doing anything new, but
Yes.
there has to be a reason why people still do it. For example, let's say some X% of articles being written on LinkedIn would have been there already, right? It would be like 1 out of 1,000 articles which actually has pointed something new in the world. Do you feel like people should stop writing or people should stop doing things just because they are not reinventing anything new?
So I find it like very basic. Like if we are two people being enrolled in a computer engineering course and you're learning C++ and you are good at it, compared to me, then it's not like that I should also stop learning C++ because I know that there are better engineers in overall the world who can do some certain things better than me. It's
Okay.
about me growing as an individual, that I get to clear my thoughts, my speaking abilities, my reading, writing abilities, and overall, maybe as a listener, all those things. These soft skills I feel are missing if you took as a holistic view. Okay, why should someone write on LinkedIn or any public platform, so to say, so that whenever you write or you produce any video or you do any podcast, you basically think your thoughts very clearly so that it gets communicated to the masses. And you might believe it or not, but whenever you're doing that process, I am a big believer of you're actually helping yourself than actually people who are consuming that content. So why did I learn C++? To understand me, like to understand my understanding better, and maybe eventually I would be able to help other people who would read my C++ related codes or all the other things. But why do I believe in doing all these things is that it gives me a clear idea of executing things, and it helps me grow as an individual.
Makes sense. Let's talk about the Indian education system, or in general, let's say software education system. People in college used to learn all these courses, right? What's your perspective on this? Second, what do you think should be added basically for a software engineer to learn over time?
Right. Yeah. So, like, what people should focus on, I would say, is coding. Something like the courses that are being taught to any of us in the computer engineering course, they're good enough, and they should, the students should sort of understand how basics work.
Okay.
See, if you mess up with basics, you're gonna face problem in future. I have faced it personally because I realized that okay, I have not studied any course as such as part of curriculum, and I have not end-to-end studied it. So there are few terms which I face as of now that okay, what is this, and then Google around it, and then that's completely fine. But if you would have done that basics part, basic building block itself in your college, then you would have been completely done with it. You would have done excellent in terms of other things in future. Okay.
So I think it's a very good point that you are making. People I think have this mentality, right, that they should skip these courses and just do, let's say, data structure or some very specific things. But over time, it actually becomes very evident that these courses are there for a reason, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, so I would relate my second point with the first point itself. So apart from coding, like, see, coding is everywhere in terms of how everything is working in the world. But apart from that, like, you need to understand various things. Like, let's say if I am in a company who is on an app delivering food, and I want to understand other things. Okay, like what other things I'm talking about? You're doing coding, but you do not think it from your perspective. How would the customer experience be like? Okay. How would I make sure that anyone who is using the app or website which is built using my code, how do I make sure that I deliver the service which they are looking via my app or website? Okay, you have to basically learn all these soft skills, and for learning all these soft skills, you have to just make sure that your building block was good enough in your college and you do not miss it. Like it's very crucial. For example, I'll just talk about one thing, which is, let's say, concurrency. Okay, people experience it that, okay, I cannot book a seat anytime. A seat cannot be booked anytime to two people in Book My Show app. But how do you make sure that? For understanding that, you have to first understand cores, processors, all those things. And that is your building block that you should not skip at all in your college. If you do that, you will be haunted by forever in your future, and you would have to understand that later on. Okay, so that is something I believe, like, do your basics first and then grow on top of it.
You're talking about these soft skills, right? What are these soft skills? Why do they matter so much?
So soft skills are basically so let's say if I'm a software engineer at any company and I just want to code, and let's say if I'm not enticed by that much growth perspective, and let's say if I have this mentality, if I remain a L4 engineer at any of the FAANG companies, then I would be able to have a good life overall. But to lead that life, or to grow, to keep maintaining that position as a software engineer, you need soft skills like listening, communicating clearly with other people in your team, reading, writing. Writing is such a crucial part. Like, let's say whenever you will be building any feature in your team independently, you need to have that writing skill so that you can write your engineering documents, technical documents, very clearly, so that other people who are reading that document do not need to ping you specifically that, hey, what is this, or how are you handling this, all those things. So writing as in general gives you a good perspective how to cover all things from holistic purpose, and all the other things like reading, listening, all these things make you better, efficient at your job. Whatever you're doing, these things need to be improved consistently so that you ask better questions. You perform your job efficiently as much as possible.
So let's move the conversation to apart from software as well, and we can jump back in. What do you see the future of India, or let's say historically as well, right? We all have seen the growth in India, right? Do you think it's the time of India? Let's say this decade is India's decade or something, or how do you see, let's say, software progressing in India over the next 5 years?
Right. I would say I'm a very pro believer in it. So why do I say that is, let's say, like, if you compare the today's time, so if you compare the today's time with past 10 or 15 years, there have been a lot of unicorn startups which have been kind of developed in India itself, and we are onto that path where these new companies are able to attract us as software engineers. Like, for example, one of the key things which software engineers think about is, okay, growing as an individual and optimizing on money. Okay, they do think about that. Okay, if I go to US, UK, or any other place, I would be able to make a handsome salary or be able to lead a good life. But I would say all of that is possible to you now in India itself. And all these things like are possible just because of a good environment that you can say is being provided by maybe let's say the companies overall at a higher level, the government itself, and you can do stuff. Okay, there is no restriction as such. And to add to this, people are really helping you now these days. If you ask for mentorship, even to just start up and then build your product or anything, people are very, very inclusive, and they will help you in any way possible, including financially.
So let's talk about money as well. What is your perspective on money? We have covered very brief about how important money is, but let's say you are earning some money. How do you manage it? What are your future goals in terms of what do you want with that?
I would say mostly it has to relate with my freedom.
Okay.
Okay, so like mostly, or I would say completely. Okay, so whenever I'm doing anything, like let's say my job is at suffice level that if I keep consistently putting in like 5 days a week, let's say 7 hours or something around that for my job, then I would be able to live a completely healthy, good life overall as an individual.
Okay.
But when it comes to why should someone do other things, or why should someone sort of optimize on other things in their life itself, then I would say, first of all, you're doing your job to get money. But if I say I give you that much money that you would have in the next 10 years of your life, then if you would do that job, then maybe 50% of us would say no.
Okay.
We would go back to our hometown, spend time with our parents, have maybe, let's say they would get married, have their kids at the right place, get the education being done at the same place where they want to be. And that would essentially mean that you are getting freedom out of it.
Okay.
And freedom to me, I would say, is the biggest point why everyone should be doing all of it. It takes to learn new things, and to get that freedom, you need to sort of work hard. Okay, so my ultimate goal is like, okay, I have built a good amount of life that, okay, there is a if that, okay, if for next 10 years I work good amount, then I would be able to have a good handsome amount and I would be able to lead a healthy life. But if that were not to happen, and if I have money right now, then maybe I would do something very differently. I would go and want to teach other people. I would go and want to sort of build something, so that money is not a very constraint for me. It's not a sort of something that, okay, if I not do my job, then I will not be able to lead a healthy life, or not have kids in future, have hospitable bills being paid up, have education being paid up. All those things, they would get snatched away very easily. So people should always think money as an equivalent of freedom. How much money you have is equivalent to how much freedom you have as of now.
As important as it is to earn the money, I feel it's equally important that you invest it in the correct place as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would say it's very, very crucial in today's world to understand investing about money. What people end up actually doing is they do a lot of work in their professional life just to get to a point where they have maybe 2-3 lakhs per month coming into their account, and then do not care about what is going to happen to that money. Okay, so if you think about stats itself, then India is having an inflation rate of about 6 to 7% annually.
Okay.
And that means that if I have 1 lakh rupees in my account, then 6 to 7% will eat up your inflation, minus the savings percentage that you will get normally 3-4%. Okay.
Okay. So let's assume you have 100 rupees in savings, right? How do you see one should invest it?
I would say it really depends upon their investing style, like what goals do have in their career. Like for example, one of the key things which I feel that people are missing as of today is that they do not have a very clear idea of what they want with that money. So I'll tell you with a personal story of how it relates to. See, like for example, when I started doing job, I always used to think that, okay, like not always, but at some point I used to think that, okay, someday I would buy a car. Okay. And that thought actually came to me in probably 2021 when I actually joined Grab. Okay. So the thing is, if you would have invested your money into some debt instruments, and that would have given you a short return of 3-4 whatever percentage annually, then you would have been in a comfortable position to pull out that money as of today, or let's say maybe not today because the markets are currently at all-time high right now, but let's say 6 months before, you would be able to comfortably pull out that money because that is in your debt mutual funds, and it would have given you a good percentage of returns, decent percentage of return just to save your money. But what people do end up doing mistake is they put up that money into some high risk instrument, and they feel that they are going to get rich very quickly, and that money when the time comes, they will not be able to pull out that money, or they pull out that money at a risk of bearing the loss, or they cut the loss and then sort of pull out that money.
So what you're trying to say is basically based on a time horizon that you want to take out the money, you should decide what instrument you should put it in.
Correct. And that is the crucial thing which you want to do with your money by earning from something as a software engineer. As a professional, you earn your money is 50%, but investing your money by keeping the time horizon, you want to pull that money and then use it for your needs, is the main thing that you should focus on. Yeah.
Makes sense. And it's actually very important in the long run as well, right?
Right. So yeah, I mean, like one of the main things which I feel that, like for example, if I would have been an active investor in 2017 and I would have invested some money thinking that, hey, I would get married in 2020 and I would pull out these money, by investing in maybe some stock randomly, then I would not have been in a position because of COVID. Okay. So equity investing works differently, debt investing works differently, and these basically investing styles give you the horizon that you want to achieve in your life. So do make sure whenever you are putting money, you understand the risks, and then you get an idea of when you want to pull that money out.
Makes sense. So what are your goals for, let's say, next 3 years, 5 years?
So I would say that I'm currently very good at the level which I am at Uber right now, and related to my personal goals as such, I would say I want to explore this part of writing itself in a full-fledged manner. Like for example, maybe I sort of build some newsletter where I can have a good number of subscribers subscribing to my material. Having a paid subscription to it or not, that is a totally separate thing. That is something as a byproduct which will come. But my personal goal is to improve these soft skills which I believe haven't been a part of my life so far, and to keep on sort of growing on them. Like for example, network with other people and understand what thought they have in their mind for software engineering. How do they sort of improve on writing itself, maybe on different platforms like LinkedIn, Twitter, or any other platforms, or any soft skills that they think, how do you communicate with people effectively? I want to understand into the nitty-gritties of it. What are the technical things related to the communication itself? Those are the things which I want to personally focus for, at least for next 2 years.
Okay. Since you are very good following LinkedIn, right? People would query you or ask you questions. What have been, let's say, top 3 or 4 kind of questions that have come to you most often? Maybe you can help use this platform to actually help them answer to a wider set of audience.
Sure. So what I've faced or recently experienced like with people is they want everything to be done in a very short way. Like they want everything very, very quick. Okay. Like for example, one of the most frequently asked questions for me is like, if I do 300 problems on LeetCode, is that good enough for coming into Uber? So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, that is not something I would say. How do I know that what problems have you solved in those 300? Have you solved those 300 problems only easy ones? Then definitely it's not the one that you are that you think is going to work. Have you solved only 300 problems on, let's say, DP itself, medium and hard DP problems? And that's definitely not going to work for you, because other areas as well. What people need to think is from like a holistic view that, okay, how they sort of do a trial and error basis. Okay, like if you want to achieve a goal, do not be disheartened by the early results that you face in your life. Just be consistent and stay sort of dedicated or committed in the process. Okay, that's my ultimate motive that I want to sort of highlight to the user. I would say just do it and stick with it. Okay, stick with the process, understand the nitty-gritties of it which other people are doing already. Help and sort of ask for help, network with people, and grow into those things. Okay.
What other questions or queries that you usually get?
So I think I do get other very good things as well. Like for example, people do normally ask that, okay, like for example, whenever I have sort of started writing, like in odd 3 months, people have started sort of asking me that, okay, what is my motivation to sort of do all these things that we already discussed. But some people are normally interested in learning things and they have pinged me that okay, where and how do you pick things to talk about? Okay, like for example, if you're talking about any X thing, how did you thought about it? Do you have a well prepared list? How do I make sure, like it's the question that the people are asking, that how do I make sure that I get certain things and I get a holistic view of a particular subject? What should I study on? Where should I study from? And all those kind of things.
How do you decide? Like, how have you prepared some sort of a list for, let's say, LinkedIn post or something?
I would say no. Like, see, actually for me it works very easily. See, I think it like your problems are a big recursive function that you need to solve. Okay, for example, the good way to picturize is something which I recently shared with other people on the LinkedIn is, like for example, if you are designing, let's say a nearby friend service, like let's say I am in Uber and there comes a request where I have to find all the nearby drivers for a given user. Okay, and for solving this problem, I need to have the understanding how should I store my drivers, because only when I have the drivers with me is basically then I will be able to fulfill the first requirement itself.
Okay.
So it's a function stack or the recursive function that I'm calling that okay, to solve the problem of finding the nearby drivers, first identify how to store the drivers. And then when I go for how to store the drivers, I then understand that okay, what things are necessary for storing the information for a driver, and like which, let's say if I straight go to a particular technical challenge, like let's say which database should I sort of use so that whenever I sort of fulfill the request of getting the drivers, I can do that efficiently and optimally. And that way I sort of understand each and every recursive function, and then I find the main answer to the main question I started with. So normally I understand there are enough questions around us, there are enough things around us for us to have those questions answered. It's just that people need to have that curiosity being sustained in them, so that if they get those questions, they should Google around it, read it from blogs, research papers, other people courses, in fact, okay, just to get an idea that okay, how it works, and just get your engineering knowledge up to the mark itself. Yeah.
What is the end goal here?
I think end goal is not something that okay, if I study different 20 systems from online, any YouTube course or anything, then I would be satisfied with it. I think people in general, what I have done for myself is detach yourself, your learning process with the outcome itself. Okay, do not think about that if I want to learn how Google Maps is designed or something, then you want any definitive outcome of it, that okay, what should we do with it at the end? Should we use it in our system? That is a separate thing, but yeah, do not do that thing with the intention of doing anything. Just ask yourself questions enough, and just be curious. Okay, understand things. Only then and then you'll be able to probably reach to a point that okay, you can help other people guide. Okay, you'll be able to feel sort of have a good long lasting happiness that okay, you really understand systems, you have not touched them on the surface, and you have given enough time. And I think in a nutshell, overall, whenever you will go 10 years maybe down the industry, you will have a very good satisfaction that okay, whatever field you have chosen, you have gone into the nitty-gritties of it, what other people have spent probably their whole life working on.
Makes
okay
sense.
that is a great study to actually get in your life's experiences.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the time, Vivek. It was
Alright.
nice talking to you.
Yeah, it was same here. Thank you.